first of all, welcome.
Thank you.
This meeting has long been in the making, and we're very happy and privileged to have you at our studio for our energy speaking series. So give our audience a quick overview of what kind of a bad man you are when it comes to energy efficiencies.
I'm actually a good man, and
Metaphorically speaking, in a good way.
I'm Jack Zhou, and I'm from A&J Energy Consultants. I've been in the building science field since 2002. That's when I started learning about architecture and building science at Ryerson University. And since 2006, I started working for somebody full-time. Before that, I was doing part-time and learning about energy audit and house constructions. So I got into the weeds of what building science is all about, other from just reading it from books. And then I kind of fell in love with energy efficiency because it's not just about saving the world. It's also about the occupants, the comfort, the health being of people in the home. We built houses for people, not the other way around. So that kind of got me really interested. So I've just been doing this for now almost 20 years. If you think about it, 2002 all the way till 2022.
That is insane. And I think you and I started actually, no, you've been in this way longer than I have. I've started back in 2008. And it seems like you've been around for a little bit longer than I. It's funny, I was in an association, just to kind of talk about how long ago things go. I was in an association and we're just a bunch of colleagues talking, and all of a sudden one of the guys in the association turned to me and he's like, "You did my home energy audit back in 2009. And then my first reaction was, okay, how do you know that? It's like, how do you know? I don't even know what I had for lunch yesterday. And then the other thing is and then he pulled out a home energy audit report, the old Energy rating system report, and it was my name on it, dated 2009. And I was like, wow, what are the odds? I mean, if you do something that you're passionate about long enough, you're just going to be running into individuals that have succeeded as much as you have succeeded, and you have many, many nice stories to tell. So you started in your, did you start it in new construction right away, or were you part of the Energy rating system retrofit market first and then you transition into new construction?
Actually, the boss who I worked for back then, I'm now one of his competitor.
Okay,
but I'm a friendly competitor, not an ugly one. And he was doing house additions for people.
Interesting.
So I learned to swing a hammer. I learned to put on insulations on walls. I learned to design HVAC systems. I learned to install HVAC systems.
Interesting.
And I learned to commission HVAC systems. So I did a lot of that first before I got into energy audit. Energy audit was something kind of in between. I just fell in love with, house construction in general. So I wanted to learn more. I'm really hungry for knowledge because I really think knowledge is powerful. And when you apply it, when you're able to apply what you learn from whether it's school or daily life lessons, I think that's how you can really defeat age and become successful in life. And that's one thing I really strive for.
Okay. So is it fair to say that right now your main focus is on new construction?
That is check. A&J Energy Consultants is mainly focused on production homes.
Okay. And then are you predominantly focusing in Ontario when it comes to this service? Or would you say the majority of businesses that you entertain is in Ontario?
I have a lot of plans. But right now, with where things are, we're only focused on Ontario.
Okay. And when it comes to new construction, Jack, how have you seen the market changing, let's say in the past 5 years, as it pertains to codes, and talent, and just the general mindset of the builders?
Well, we have global crisis, and other than the war, we have global warming as well, and that's not going to go away. So everybody acknowledges that, especially the government. I came from China. They are doing a lot. They're actually rating the most LEED buildings in the world right now. So Canada used to be the leader, and I want to be able to help them to become that again. And I think some of the leadership acknowledges that in Canada as well. So that's why our national building code is updating, and Ontario building code is harmonizing with it. Although Ontario building code right now is more energy efficient, but in the future, the path is to get to net zero.
Correct.
So the builders, whether you like it or not, they're gonna have to do it. And if they don't want to catch on to the boat, then they're just gonna be falling behind into the water, and that's
As
it.
Andy Oden used to say, and as Andy Oden, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when.
Yeah.
And I think I agree with you 100%. It's funny, like you can see the transition. You can see the transitions and how the requirements are, quote unquote, are becoming tighter and tighter as it pertains to the packages that are available. How do you think? How is that impacting the builders? Do you feel builders kind of scrambling on out of necessity, like, resorting to companies and individuals like yourself, or do you actually see the desire for them to change and go green?
I see a mix of everything. There's guys feel that, they wake up tomorrow and there's a solution on the shelf and they can just buy it and say, oh, it solves all my problem. There's those guys. And then there are guys who are more proactive. So those are the A-list clients for me, because I like to work with these people who wants to learn, who actually values a third-party consultant as a benefit to their whole business plan, not just somebody who will just take money from their pocket and build a, most cost-effective house as possible. When I say that, I mean cheap. So,
and when we say cheap, we mean really cheap. We're dealing with builders after all.
no, not all builders are cheap. There are a few builders I actually would like to buy a house from them because they just do really, really good work. But it's rare. That's in general, it's rare. But there are builders out there who are really keen into learning about the best practice and actually apply it into their work.
Yeah.
So that the homeowners benefit from not just building a house that doesn't leak water, doesn't leak air. It's actually a home that they can enjoy and have a peace of mind. And those are the people I love to service.
Yeah, it's. I've had exposures to builders, and I have a couple of cool stories there. I'll start with this case study. So we did our first SB12 building package for the builders, and for those of you that. For our viewers, just a quick overview of SB12. So that's this. Actually, why don't you tell everyone about SB12 prescriptive and performance?
Okay.
Because I think that's, and I think it's important to talk about SB12 performance and prescriptive. Is that it's going to could probably be not here in about a year, and I think we have used it as a transition step to kind of align the builders with our services as it pertains to conducting blower door tests, air sealing best practices, considerations to Energy Star homes, and just maybe later to net zero. And I felt like that SB12 performance and them avoiding installing a domestic hot water system or them having window to wall ratio more than 22%, it's just kind of like the gateway for them to consider other energy efficiency measures within the codes and just building more energy efficient home.
Yeah. Okay, so SB12, that's one of the main things I service as well. We probably have about 50% of our builders doing SB12 performance.
That's correct.
And when I say SB12 performance, that's the supplementary, bulletin for the energy efficiency of homes in Ontario, Part 9 homes, so low-rise residential, 600 square meters and less, all that good jazz that's on, Energen's challenging exam. So in order for you to build a home, you have to meet a certain energy efficiency requirement in Ontario. And there's really two ways to go about it in general. One is you pick a pre-prescribed package and you meet every little, all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed, all that requirement is met, then that's the prescriptive path.
Fixed menu, a la carte.
Menu, that's right.
Building package 4A, probably the common one.
It'll be like A1.
Yeah.
It's the package, it's the new package J. That's how we say it. So most likely, like 95% of the people in Ontario was building to A1. That's the package where it's only no continuous installation on the above grade wall. So the most cost-effective package again, right?
Yeah.
So that's why builders love using it. That's like package J back in the 2012 days. And then there's the prescriptive path, which involves energy modeling. Now, it's really just, putting a set of design into an energy simulation software to generate how much energy you're using. And there's many people that can do that and many software out there that's using it. We only use HOT 2000 because that's what NRCan, Natural Resources Canada, uses. They maintain it. They developed it 1982, long time ago. The DOS version, I've seen it once, but man, that's back in the
You've
days.
seen HOT 2000 DOS version?
Yes, I have.
You're one of the very few.
Yeah.
Okay.
My ex-boss was a pioneer in this field, so I learned so much from him. I'm very grateful to be learning under his wings back in the days. So when do you do prescriptive? When do you use performance? For people who doesn't want to learn, they just want to do their job and continue their life the way it was, for the last 30 years. Prescriptive path is the best option for them. They want to change, go ahead. That's good. But for people who actually wants to understand about energy efficiency, cost optimization, performance, value engineering, then performance path is the way that we would like to show how you can build a house different. You can still achieve energy efficiency without breaking the bank. And that's what performance will allow you to actually entertain.
It's funny. Like in spirit, I agree with what you just said. I think it's about learning. I think it's about really untapping that knowledge for the benefits of occupant comfort and durability and resiliencies, and then obviously energy savings and saving the planet. But what we have experienced is that the builders that we have came across, like my first project of SP12 performance was literally like this. The architectural firm and the mechanical engineering firm, they thought they actually put in the application in as part of prescriptive. And then without knowing, they just assumed that the builder is going to install domestic hot water heat recovery system. The builder has never installed a domestic hot water heat recovery system. They're planning to do 150 units. And then when it comes to building inspections and when it comes to the first level and getting the permits, they're like, where are your domestic hot water heating systems? And then the builder was like, oh, we weren't aware that we had to do it. And then there was a bit of a scramble in terms of what other avenues should they consider to make this project approved for moving forward. And then enter SP12 performance. And I think the premise there was around builders. You work within parameters that you understand, and within these parameters that you understand, if your products that you're installing is energy efficient enough, you may not need to undertake the installation of a domestic hot water recovery system in this particular case. So we did an analysis, and I think the turning point on that particular project was that under the building package, you need to have an ER rating of a 25 for the windows. They were going with ER rating of 34 and higher.
Amazing.
And I want to talk about ER and U value too, because I have mixed feeling about that.
This is going to take a day now.
No, but it's good. And then in that particular cases, we're like, hey, listen, domestic hot water recovery in the great scheme of energy efficiency is quite minimal. And if we model your home based on your superior ER of 34, your home is energy efficient enough. Actually, it's more energy efficient than prescriptive, and therefore you go. And I think from our perspective, we actually got the builder's ear. Like we got the builder's ears, like, oh wow, like you're actually saving me time and money. And then that was the gateway. That was our way in. And then they're sending us questions. Should we go with XPS, 3 inches, or should we go with XPF, this inches on the outsides? Now we're positioning ourselves with the subject matter experts, bringing in more value. But our foot in the door was, let me show you how you can save time and money. And then now they're asking us about solar ready. Now they're asking us about drain water heat recovery systems that is back on the safety. And now they're talking to us about like the most up to date like water management techniques around how to get the water away from the house. And now we're having those, really in-depth building knowledge discussions. And honestly, for me, I feel like building knowledge is all about educating people not to do dumb things. And once you understand heat, air, and moisture and how they move, it's just a question of mitigating those elements in a way that, you really set up the home for success, and you're reducing the cost. And when I'm talking cost, I'm not talking about not the upfront cost. I'm talking about total cost. And that's another thing that people are not factoring in, right? The cost of the warranty and the maintenance that comes way after the install. So, yeah, I mean, that's this SB12 performance has kind of opened up this door to even to start the conversations with the builders. We do a lot of works on the retrofit market, and we'll have energy advisors coming up to us and they're like, hey, Hamed, I want to get into the new constructions. And my first thing is like, listen, you really got to up your knowledge. Because if you think you're going to go in front of a builder and do what you have done with a homeowner, he's a builder. He knows way more than you. You really have to elevate your knowledge in a way where you can have fruitful discussions within the parameters that he understands. Because you got 2 minutes at top, and the minute he senses that you don't know what he feels like you don't know what you're talking about, he will ask you to leave the office. And I think that, I mean, we'll talk about it a little bit more. I would love to kind of get your perspective of how you see the talent. I feel like there's a huge gap in terms of elevating the knowledge of advisors to a level where they can sit in front of a builder and convince them that they can bring in value. And we've been able to do that with SB12 performance, and now the conversation has opened up for them to listen to it. So, and I think, like, I'd love to kind of get your perspective on, like, when you're talking to onboarding new builders, do you feel the market being the same way? And how are you, and what kind of advice do you give to people that kind of want to make the transition? I always tell people, do retrofit first, kind of get your Energy rating systems, become an energy advisor, and then make the transition to new construction. Because once you walk into new constructions, those 2 exams that you have written, grab those 2 exams, times them by 100, and the knowledge that you need to have needs to be at that level that you can have those fruitful discussions.
Passing the exam is just the beginning, man. Learning doesn't stop if you want to keep doing this job and do it well.
Especially new construction, absolutely.
There's always new products coming in. You talked about cost, right? I mean, honestly, everybody will have that discussion. How much does it cost? It's not that they don't know, they don't know what else to ask other than that. That's the first question. Like, so, because they don't know enough to ask more intelligent questions. They'll say, how much do you cost?
What is they see you as an overhead.
Exactly. And then I say, actually, you know what? I'm an investment for you. I make you money by hiring us. That's my first response. I don't cost you money. I actually make you money. And here's how I make you money. Just exactly what you said. Save you time, save you money. And guess what? I can even make your building construction, your quality of your construction even better.
Right.
We at A&J, we don't just do energy simulation. We actually sell as a package. So we do site training, we do blow door testing, we do on-site evaluation, verification, and we do energy modeling. So for people who just want to, you mentioned about the drain water heat recovery where you can save it because you do better on your ER rating and all that. It's true, you can do that, no problem. But that's not our business model. Our business model is to help the builders to actually build a better product and be able to cut some costs down at the same time. Because we want to not just save them some pocket money, but also their name, and then also, things that people who's actually leaving the home, they want a good home too. Right now, the Ontario Building Code doesn't require blow door testing, unless you claim an airtightness credit. For those who understands what I'm talking about, basically, they assume your house is some airtightness, right?
Right.
For building code, for detached houses, it's 3 air change, and for attached homes, it's 3.5. But it's not verified. So it's like your kids saying, "Oh, Dad, I got 100% on my exam. Can you buy me this gift?" Okay, yeah. Show me your mark. Oh, no, it's good. You don't have to verify it. Like, it's good. Like, that's how it goes right now. So
That's like the best analogy on ACH 3.0 that I've ever got so far.
So for me, it's like, no, that's not good enough. You got to show Daddy that you actually got 100%, and then we got to verify.
Right.
So that's what we do for builders. You know, they can't just say I'm the best builder in the world. We actually do a report. We actually go on site. If you go to our website, you'll see our best air change champion for every month.
Right.
And we show people that by doing something that's just a little bit different than normal practice. And we're not asking you to break the bank either. It's by paying a little bit attention to your detail. Then you can make a huge difference. You know, I keep saying this to my builders. Air tightness, it carries 90 to 100 times more moisture content compared to vapor diffusion. That means how much vapor or moisture that's going through your wall.
Right.
That's the layman's term. And if you can resolve the air leakage issue, then you don't have any mold or moisture problem in your walls.
I think you hit it on the nail. I think air tightness, it's less about house being tight and it's more about making sure that the moisture does not get into the house to begin with, and then just kind of minimize that from a durability perspective. And I think that was one of the eye-opener things that I'm learning as it pertains, as I'm going through the courses offered by Inner Quality and Building Knowledge. Which is I wasn't aware of that at all. It's all about durabilities and making sure that the moisture does not get in, and if it gets in, how do we make sure that it's dried up and it's removed in the most efficient way possible.
So going back to the knowledge gap,
Right.
Going to school did not teach me how to make houses airtight. Looking at exams, reading questions, or doing exams, or even just learning, like, it's really, really hard for someone who have no idea what airtightness means to get a house airtight. I constantly meet site supervisors building for like 30, 40 years. You know, I've been doing more houses than you ever have done in whatever, right? Like, that's their typical responses. And they have no idea how to build airtightness. So they could be doing so well in one product type. As soon as they switch to a different site configuration, like a pony wall or a walkout basement, their ACH just goes up like so high. And they have like, I didn't change anything. Yeah, that's the problem. You're building a different product type and you didn't change any construction practice.
Right.
And that's why it's not airtight. So the gap is when we learn existing homes, we pass the exam, we have a mentor, we go through 7 houses, and then now we have our license to do audits. So then we just do audits and we pump them out like crazy because every audit is X dollar and I want to do as many as I can, right?
Right.
But in an existing home, we don't care about airtightness. We're just measuring, we're just verifying. There's no pass or fail because that's what the Energy rating is. There's no pass or fail.
Right.
As soon as you get into new construction, there is pass or fail.
Yeah, the livelihood of the permit
is pass or fail.
Dependent on the airtightness test.
Depends on what kind of permit.
If they choose to go that path.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So, and we are moving. You said when, like maybe. It's not a maybe. Net zero is a.
It's not a matter of if, it's a question of when.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So net zero is happening, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
So 2032. It's only 10 more years from now. So
is it 2032 net zero? Is it 2050?
For new homes.
For new homes, 230.
Yeah.
For existing,
so we have 2 different timelines here.
Ooh,
yeah.
2050 and 2032. Get
South
ready, boys.
South Korea is 2025.
Interesting.
China is like whenever they want to.
Yesterday.
It's happening today. It's going to happen today. So that's how, the rest of the world is going. It's all about energy efficiency. So for someone who's actually want to get into the new construction, right now, there's really 3 major companies in Ontario that is really heavy on here. I mean, GTA area, like Southern Ontario. There's a few of our competitors, which I would not name, and then one of us, we're on one of the list, and we're definitely not the biggest, but we want to be the best in what we do. So that's why we don't just offer energy modeling. We
Yes.
do the whole package.
Right.
And for someone who wants to learn it, it's really important that they work with someone who actually knows what they're doing and then goes through it slowly. I had the opportunity to work with someone who actually knows very much of what they're doing.
Right.
It's my ex-boss. So, I mentioned before, I did insulation, I installed poly, I did HVAC systems. So I learned how to put a house together.
Right.
And he was one of the few guys who's really passionate about energy efficiency. So from there, I learned airtightness a bit from him. And then when I went back to school to do my master's, I didn't finish, but I went back to school to learn more because I'm really hungry for knowledge. I just realized that the stuff that I'm learning, it's just not enough. And the best way to become valuable in this field is to actually invest into yourself, your mind. Read books, learn from people, see how people do things. And
I like speaking of investment, right? And the reason why I wanted to ask that question is as a service organizations that specializes on predominantly on retrofit projects, and do trainings on bringing energy advisors on board. A common question that I always get is, what do you see? Where do you see the home energy audit in the next 5 years? And and then my answer is, well, if I had a crystal glaze, I would be a billionaire. But but I understand and appreciate why people are asking that question, right? They're making an investment in terms of time and money, like in upfront on the course and the blower door equipment, and they just want to make sure that at least they have some degree of confidence around the longevity of the profession itself. And my answers has been the same probably for the past 3 years. I would say that I think you should. This is a wonderful way to kind of get your foot into the door and understand building science from a retrofit perspective. But I wholeheartedly believe beyond the existing retrofit programs available, Canada Greener Home and the Enbridges program, the ones that we're involved in, the new construction is the future. I think there would be a time in a not so distant future where new constructions and the mandates from that, and maybe it's mandatory labeling, who knows?
it's going to happen too.
Yeah, I mean,
Toronto is starting first,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
the rest of the world is just
I
gonna
think will
follow.
trump all rebate-oriented retrofit programs. I wholeheartedly believe that. I don't know what the timeline is. Maybe it's 5 years, maybe it's 10 years. So if you come in with that 5 to 10 year horizon of dedication to this profession, I do not think, let's just say it would not suck.
No.
And I think that's one thing. However, and then when it comes to knowledge, right, I always tell people, like, once you're done your first 100 or 200 falls at retrofits, learn from the experts, learn from the tycoons or the big players in the new constructions, air quality, building knowledge. Yes. And they're so generously provide these wonderful courses, these nuggets of knowledge that
I took all their training, by the way.
Advanced Building Science by Andy. I just finished it, and it was a total of 9 hours, but holy smoke. I was just like, slow
away,
down,
right?
Andy, slow down. I can't keep up. And advanced training techniques for sales. They have a spring camp in April. They have an affiliation with construction.
I signed up already.
Oh, I'm going to see you there. Okay,
There you go.
perfect.
We can grab a drink.
Oh,
I
beautiful.
drink tea, so you can have your alcohol.
I'll drink tea with vodka in it. And then and construction instructions, that course in Denver. I love Denver. Like, I don't need that many excuses to end up in Denver, but I'm going to be going there at some point. I'm just kind of like, I feel like the process of retaining this knowledge, it's super fun. It's extremely fun. And that's where the future is headed.
Yeah.
And that's where it's going to be headed. So if you really want to play that game, I feel like there's a lot of opportunities in new construction. And I'll throw one more thing. I think the market in Canada, more specifically Ontario and BC, will be huge. And to make things even more interesting, I believe that the market across the border will continue to grow, and it will be even more interesting than the Canadian market. 26 or 27 out of the 50 states, blower door test is already mandatory, which is something. And it's funny because a house as a system is a Canadian concept. Blower door and the technology design is more Canadian than US, but at the same time, when you see 27 states out of 50 where it's mandatory for construction, I find that very, very interesting and amusing.
If that happened here, I think a lot of builders would lose their sleep. I mean,
Question
honestly,
of if, it's a question of when, my friend.
you have tested a lot of blow doors in houses. Like my highest air change was like 21. That's like 7 times over the goal.
Yeah, like super small double brick bungalow with like vermiculite insulations 1 inch thick. Terrible.
So that's Ontario Building Code default is 3, right? So 21, 3 is like seven times. Then when we talk about Energy Star, which is 2.5, so that's half an air change better for a detached unit. And then we go Energy Star, and then there's R2000, which is kind of dead in the water now. And then we have Net Zero, which is 1.5, even lower. 1.5 is just the starting point, right? So how are you gonna make that 21 air change down to a 1.5 when Net Zero ready or Net Zero energy becomes mandatory? So that's where energy advisors should really focus if they wanted to strive in this business. The other recommendation I would give to somebody who's trying to get to the field is really learn about the cost of building a home.
Right.
You've been doing this for a long time. You do many other businesses, so you're great with numbers and stuff. But people who doesn't have this experience, they should really try to learn from someone. Actually, just go to Home Depot and say, what's a 2x4 cost? What's an R14 bat cost? What does an R14 bat look like? What's the difference between a fiberglass bat and a rock wool bat? And spray foam, 2 pound, half pound. What is medium density? What's low density? Like all these terms, like you need to have that in the back of your mind, like the back of your hand, because when a builder talks to you, you better act like you're really confident and you know your stuff.
They say the quickest ways to a woman's heart is heart and flowers and chocolate. I would say the quickest ways to a builder heart is know your numbers.
More importantly, know their numbers.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you know what they are spending and how you can actually help them to reduce stress, save time, money, and make their customers happier, they're gonna
I'll give you an example. XPX exterior insulation, the R5. So we are doing a case study right now where we want to convince our builder. It's trying to convince the builder to go from double pane to tri-pane, U value of 1.2. And by making the windows more efficient, you can avoid putting the XPS on the exterior. It's because about ER, right? About ER versus U value, and ER is very solar heat gain specific, where basically puts you in a position where you basically gonna have duct vents that are oversized, in the heating system, and then they're the right size during the cooling season because the solar heat gain is so much higher from a comfort perspective. So, but again, but if you go to tri-pane, U value of 1.1, 1.2, in terms of discomfort number of days, it's hardly any. Like it's just amazing, but it's just so bloody expensive. So where can you deduct and add where you have more comfort and more, and then same amount of energy efficiency? And I think we're doing that study.
So you want to hear a different perspective?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I do a lot of net zero consulting, and the reason why I do it well is because I do cost optimization. I don't just look after energy saving, I also look at the cost of achieving that energy saving. And when you're able to compare the two together, you get something called a value index.
Right.
What that means is, so the way I like to call it, it's called the best bang for your buck study. It's called optimization, right? That's just the layman term. And what you want to do
get your money worth study.
Exactly. So what you want to do is, where can I spend the least amount of money to get the most energy saving?
Right.
If that's achievable, that would be my most cost-effective.
Where does home comfort tie into that index of yours?
So home comfort is about making your walls as energy efficient as possible. But there's a balance. There's a tipping point. So where can I spend? So how much insulation do I add in my walls so that it's still cost effective and energy efficient at the same time? And that's when I say you need to know cost, because there's something called diminishing return. I learned this like way back my first year with working with my ex-boss. That's what he said, diminishing return. R100 in the attic and R70, maybe it sounds like R30 difference, but the effectiveness of it is not quite that significant. And then the energy saving from that R30 difference may be very little. So the extra money that you put in the R30, maybe the return on your investment is 10 years.
Right.
So the perspective I want to mention to you is I usually don't promote triple pane glass.
Well, I thought we were friends, Jack.
No, not on this energy efficiency. I'm pretty damn stubborn on that. Because if you actually think about a U 1.2 versus a U 1.4, what's the difference? It's 0.2 of a U value. What's that in R value? That's like R1. That's
right.
What's R1? That's like wearing nothing versus wearing pajamas. You're still going to be really
Double
cold.
panes are usually around 1.4 to 1.6, correct?
1.4, you can get to 1.2 too. It depends on the window.
Okay,
all
so
right?
perhaps,
It
and
depends.
then that's fine from an R value perspective. Let's say I agree with you, but from because they have a higher ER, does that mean, and then the element of solar heat gain coefficient, don't you think from a comfort perspective, there's a much, much greater value delivered through tri-pane instead of double pane windows?
So we're talking about overheating, I think, when you talk about solar heating coefficient.
That's
right?
correct.
So the higher, I'm sure the one that's at 34 plus, they probably have a solar heating coefficient of 0.6 to 0.7 or even 0.8. Those will cook an egg in the summertime. That's not the ones I put in my projects.
Right.
I would say focus somewhere in between 0.3 to 0.4, because you're not going to oversize your HVAC for cooling. Because when your solar heating is so high, wintertime, one side of your bedroom would need cooling, and other parts of the house would need heating, and that's crazy if you think about it.
Right.
But if you ever do an energy study, a cost optimization study, the amount of money you need to go from a triple pane window, from a double to a triple pane, I'm going to say it's about $65 per square foot. It's at least 100 year long for the payback. Just a simple payback. We're not going to wait 100 years to replace our windows.
Right.
15 to 20 years. So you would never see it. It's almost like the drain water heat recovery unit that you mentioned. Why people remove them? Because it's a theft item. It's copper, right? So I always say to my builders, it's worth 2 cases of a beer on a Friday night. When somebody needs a case of beer, they need extra cash. That's where they go in, and it's copper. It's heavy. It's worth money. But it's about payback, right? So when we say, I like to spend very little money and get a lot of energy savings,
right?
And that's how you get net zero. So honestly, of all the net zero projects that I've been promoting, I can show you that if you design the house properly compared to Ontario Building Code, the incremental cost of upgrading a basic Ontario Building Code A1, A4 package house to a net zero ready or a net zero energy home, the payback is instant. The second you live in the home, you're going to start seeing positive cash flow. And it's because you are able to optimize the upgrades, you're getting the most bang for your buck. So you're spending very little money to get the most energy savings. And with the production of energy recovery, or even energy production from your solar energy panel, solar panels, you're actually going to get an instant payback. Even if you don't put in the solar panels, the money that you need to borrow to put into the upgrade will be way less than what you have to pay on a monthly basis. So the interest that you're paying to borrow that money to put in all these upgrades, the energy saving itself, it's going to give you more energy savings, which is money savings, compared to what you have to pay to the mortgage. So we can have a chat there. I can show you how the math works.
No, that's amazing. And I think I just some quick background information for our viewers in case they're not so familiar with these new construction terms. I think there's fundamentally 3 different categories of homes that we're talking about. It's your typical new home in accordance to National Building Code. And then the next level up would be the Energy Star homes, which is typically on average 20% more efficient than your typical new home. And then, of course, the net zero homes. That's the platinum standard, where by 2032 all new construction has to be net zero, and by 2050 all existing home needs to be retrofitted to net zero. So let's talk about, like, from a very high level perspective, since we're already talking about net zero and costs. I love where this is going. When you look at a typical, I love to kind of bounce these ideas off you and you tell me, verify this for me. I feel like I'm back in school again. This is amazing. Like when you look at a typical single detached dwelling, and we talked about these components and keeping costs and optimization in mind, like what's that ideal net zero home looks like? So tell me if I'm correct on that. We're talking about an attic installation of probably R50 or R60, correct?
Yeah.
Are we going with effective R value of between R30 and R35 for the walls above grade?
Yeah. So honestly, this guy he does energy modeling because he's asking all the right questions. So he understands house construction.
We're going micro here, my friends, and none of this high level stuff. Okay, we're going into it.
When I do my energy simulations, it's all effectiveness, right? But when I consult to builders, I just use what they understand, which is nominal.
Use what you put into the wall.
R50, R60. So it depends who you talk to. I respond a little bit differently, but in general, it's whatever they understand.
Right.
But yes, we want to use effectiveness of the assembly to figure out how we can best achieve net zero target without breaking the bank. And there are very little inexpensive upgrades that you can do that has a huge impact.
Okay.
For example, airtightness.
No, but before we get to airtightness, let's make sure these guys, the new builders of ours, are there. Let's talk about insulation first. So attic, R50.
I'm going to say R60-ish is good.
Effective or nominal?
Nominal. That would be nominal, yeah.
For those of you who do not know what nominal versus effective is, nominal is what you buy from Home Depot, and that's the actual R value of the insulation itself. And effective means what happens once I put this in that particular component, whether it's attic or walls, and then that insulation becomes in contact with other materials that do not have the same insulations. It leads into this phenomenon called thermal bridging, where heat loss occurs through conduction and the R value goes lower. And if you're still with me, congratulations, you are a worthy opponent. You should undertake this responsibility. But so you're thinking R60 in the attic. And then what about your walls, Jack? Above grade walls. Tell me about those walls.
So there's 2 types of attic, right? There's the attic with an attic space, and there's the attic without the attic space.
Let's talk about attic with an attic space.
Yeah. Okay, so R60 is usually with a ratio truss is what I would say that's good enough. That would be my
R60
optimal.
with ratio truss.
Yeah.
All right.
So ratio truss is, to qualify for a ratio truss, is minimum 10 inches at the eave length.
Okay. This is
10
good
inches.
Stuff. We have to nugget this stuff out and just make a video and send it to the builders.
I might put some of your viewers to sleep.
Don't
so
worry.
I apologize for that.
This episode of Building Science is brought to you by Tim Hortons. Keeps you up when you talk about building knowledge.
So that's something I would stick to, and then R31 is basically what I would do. For the slope, no more than
for the walls.
For the slope ceiling.
Okay, gotcha. I understood.
Yeah.
And then for the walls, effective R value above grade walls.
So we can talk about effective R value, but I also like to focus on how to achieve that effective R value.
Sure.
Okay, so you mentioned XPS, which is extruded polystyrene, foam, right?
Yes.
Which is one of the options to get to a more energy efficient wall.
Yes.
But then there's EPS, there's expanded, right?
Yes.
And then there's rock wool, and then there's spray foam. There's so many other materials out there that you can get that continuous insulation.
Yes.
So out of those material, which one is more best bang for your buck? I'm gonna.
I don't know, Jack, but I'm dying over here. Why don't you tell me?
So you have to do an energy study. You gotta go through. You gotta hire somebody like Hamed, who knows how to do energy simulation.
Hire someone like Jack. Do not hire me.
Yeah, and then they'll look at your project and say, let's try different scenarios and put a cost to each upgrades. And if you go to Home Depot now, honestly, you're in the concrete business, so we know. A Jack goes to Home Depot to buy a bag of concrete is a different price than a Hamed goes to Home Depot and buy a bag of concrete. Very different.
All right.
But if a General Joe like Jack thinks that with the Home Depot cost, it's still cost effective, then a builder's cost would be even more cost effective.
Understood.
Because they have a much higher purchasing power. Okay. Maybe don't quote me on this, but I have seen price lists where a builder's price list and a Jack's price list is like 2/3 difference.
Okay.
Huge.
So I want to move forward with this, but do you think a bad insulation in a 2x6 frame combined with an XPS R5 outside gets you to that number?
Yeah, I have done houses, net zero homes that just with 1-inch exterior insulation makes it.
So the
it
R5
depends
on
the
the
house.
outside, and you got 2x6.
Yeah.
Of course, there's other factors that factor into it. How does, I'm just curious, how does advanced framing techniques from a cost perspective and hitting your target plays into the construction?
So less wood is more room for insulation. So
less wood is
thermal
good.
bridging, right?
Right.
So thermal bridging is reduced in that sense because wood is less thermal resistant than insulation. So less wood means more room for insulation. Therefore, it's good. And wood nowadays, well, maybe 6 months ago, it was expensive. Like OSB was so expensive.
If you want to get into the builder's heart, pitch him on advanced framing technique. What do you see the challenges there? And because typical wood framing techniques that every builder uses, it's your 2x6 16 on center.
Yeah.
I think where do you see the challenges and opportunities of convincing builders to go to 24 on center on a 2x6?
I constantly have that challenge all the time because I have to get the trades. Builders don't build. In general.
Builders don't build. Yeah, you're right.
Builders don't build in general. Who does the building? The subtrades.
Right.
So who's going to give them the most resistance? The subtrades. So if the subtrades is open-minded, they understand advanced framing, then it makes things a lot easier, right? For someone who doesn't want to change, you can give them a bunch of reasons why they should do this.
Right.
But with every reason you give them, they have 10 other reasons why they shouldn't be doing it.
What are the common pushbacks that you get from trades when you say, hey, you know that thing that you do that is 69 inches center? Let's do it 24 inches on center.
Yeah.
What do you get usually from them?
Oh, narrow pops, wavy drywall, drywall,
shaky floors, noise.
Yeah, all that stuff, right? But that's all BS. With proper engineering, none of that could happen.
Yeah.
So again, it's about your desire to try new things and actually learn. Everybody can drive a car, but not everybody drives well.
Yeah. Where do you think, in your opinion, where do you turn the tides when it comes to this mindset? How do you make them see that aha moment that, holy crap, Jack is right. Maybe I should consider advanced framing technique. Because you have converted, I'm assuming. You have you had non-believers that you have converted, right, Jack?
We have about not many GTA builders, but London area.
All those Portuguese and Italian framers, you better know your stuff, otherwise they will curse
One
you out.
day they'll need. We have about 40% of our builders who's doing advanced framing. So advanced framing is anything more than 16 inch on center.
Yes, sir.
There's not just 24 inch on center. There's also 19.2.
Okay.
So 19.2 is also considered advanced framing.
I didn't know that. Thank you for
Yeah.
that.
So. Yeah, there's a really good book called Canadian Lightwood Framing. It's one of the books I learned. That book is amazing. It talks about a lot of this. But again, I learned this when I was working with my business partner in this field because he was a framer. He worked for Mattamy Homes way back in the days, and he did their optimization program. So
Do you absolutely need advanced framing technique to hit net zero, or is it one of those low hanging fruit that you should definitely consider?
it's one of those low-hanging fruit that you should. It's another tool in the toolbox that you can use.
Right.
Because there's people. I still have a few builders who's using 2x4 to build their homes, not 2x6.
And are they
So
using insulation foam?
They're using exterior insulation to get the effective R value that we need for building code. But structural wise, it depends on the house product that they're building, right? If you're building a 3-story monster home, no, 2x4 is not a good option. So
Right.
it really depends on what kind of product you're building and who your target
Understood.
is, right? Because people always say like, oh, I will only build a house with OSB, but there's people who's building houses with just wind brazing.
Okay.
You don't need OSB.
All right.
So that's when you can talk to someone who actually knows about house construction to actually do cost savings. Because back in the days, and when I say back in the day, 6 months ago, OSB was much more expensive compared to XPS.
Yes.
So what that means is we can eliminate the OSB, put in wind brazing, and then use that money to buy rigid insulation, the XPS. You'll have a much better wall, 25% more energy efficient wall, plus you save a heck load of money.
Okay.
So that's what optimization is. You actually make money by doing optimization, which is what the builder wants to hear.
Exactly. Okay, so let's move forward. So we talked about attic, we talked about above grade walls. Let's talk about windows. So I think I pretty much know where you stand on windows.
Yeah.
You go with a double pane. You try to hit 1.3.
1.4,
1.4,
yeah,
and then you're looking at a solar heat gain of
0.3, between 0.3 and 0.4.
and that is sufficient enough to kind of get you on the net zero
We
path.
don't want overheating.
We don't want
Yeah.
overheating. I
And
think
if
that's
you-
the key
Yeah,
here.
we don't want overheating, and getting a 0.7 will give you a year rating of 34 or plus, but it's not good. If you take the earlier net zero training days, they have lessons learned, and you'll see like a patio door, and then the hardwood beside the patio door is all like discolored and because of the overheating. So
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's crazy. Like imagine that shining into you. You fell asleep there, like you would get a suntan instantly.
Oh my God.
So
Natural
overheating-
tanning machine. Okay.
Yeah. So that's one. So it's a comfort concern, right?
All right.
And so I'm not like I know some really good like passive house windows as well,
Right.
But I wouldn't do that for not on a production level. I mean,
Yeah.
if they really have if it's a really special condition, right? Then
So-
I would consider triple pane.
No problem. So before we get into the mechanical system, let's kind of quickly venture out into the basement. So do you recommend XPS installations on the slab?
I don't like XPS.
Okay,
You keep mentioning
sure.
XPS. I
Right.
like
Something tells you
insulation.
that you-
I like insulation under the slab. That's
Okay.
like wearing socks.
Absolutely.
Like, do you wear socks? I wear socks
I
today.
love.
So you
sometimes
should
I
wear
put a
so-
slipper on my socks.
2 pairs, right? When you go snowboarding. So yes, under slab insulation is definitely something I
what's
promote.
your go-to? Again, keeping cost and,
Yeah.
and hitting the net zero in mind. What's your go-to slab installation?
I actually like EPS. If you haven't realized, I mentioned that quite a few times. EPS. That's the white stuff. That's like the
Get XPS out of your vocabulary, gentlemen.
no. There's different reasons for it.
It's actually more cost-effective than XPS.
It's 50% cheaper. That's why you gotta do that cost optimization.
I'm getting where Jack is going. Finally, it took an hour, but I'm getting where you're going now.
It's more cost effective, and it's
Okay.
only 1 R less. So it's R4 compared to R5.
I will
Guess
never
what? Just
use
make
it.
it thicker.
Yeah, just make it thicker, and you'll be fine.
Right. 1 inch is not so great because it's really easy to break.
Right.
Builders hate it, and if there's a strong wind, it would just break off, and that's not good.
And then for the basement wall insulations, what combination of interior, exterior, or interior only or exterior only insulation do you recommend?
Cost is always
Yes,
a
sir.
concern, right?
Yes.
So just R20 blanket, full height. Don't leave a gap.
R20 blanket.
So right now, the Ontario Building Code allows a 8-inch gap between the top of your slab to your blanket.
Right.
And the reason is because they feel that the moisture that you do concrete, so you know
Yes,
how
sir.
much liters you add into the concrete for it to mix.
Oh my God, I don't know.
Too many.
So
right?
much, so
yeah,
much.
So
Like, there's
it takes 5 years to achieve
5 to
equilibrium.
7 years
Five-
for that.
okay,
For
5
that.
to 7 years.
You know what we do? Like home builders, they actually provide a dehumidifier, and they give it as a gift because they don't want to cover the warranty
Yeah,
costs on it
yeah.
to every new home.
Yeah, so my ex-boss said that that's the diaper wrap because it traps moisture and the fiberglass just soaks it up,
It's
right?
totally a diaper
just
wrap.
like a diaper wrap. Okay, but regardless, the effectiveness of that R20 blanket is still R20.
Yes.
Whether you use XPS, EPS, rock wool, spray foam, R20 is R20.
Is there benefits of doing an exterior installation than interior?
Yeah.
Okay, but you're talking about just putting an R20 bat
Yeah,
inside.
that would be the most cost effective. No, R20 blanket.
R20, sorry, my
blanket,
apologies.
yeah.
R20 blank. And then
Yeah.
are you foaming the headers?
I would recommend that. That would be a great thing to do because that's the one place where you have the most penetration in the house.
The headers, exposed floors, I would think.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and if you have those odd instances of having a cold room underneath the garage, I would
That's
say
correct.
I would recommend doing that too. So yeah, we're definitely see eye to eye on that one. Okay, that's pretty much insulation in a nutshell. So let's move on to the mechanical system. So combos that we're considering, for sure ERV. Are you back? I'm assuming
like
that
ERVs. I
more
have
than
one in my home,
HRV.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I feel like
Yeah,
ERV.
so ERV is energy recovery ventilator, and
Yes.
it manages both moisture and heat.
Yes, sir.
So
and then
it's
HRV does everything except the moisture control.
Yeah.
So which basically means in those hot summer days, you'll just bring in that hot,
Yeah, humid
damp
air.
air, and it just puts it on your AC, and your AC just got to overload, puts on, and then actually decays the life cycle of an AC with an HRV system.
Yeah,
So,
it's working harder, right?
right.
So yes, ERV is definitely something I put in. Like if you care about your hardwood,
Yeah.
um,
And I think when it comes to air tightness tests, right, and as we're making homes tighter and tighter, the more that it makes the necessity of it, even ERV, even more, because now you have no way for air to get in or out.
That's right.
Because you've sealed all the holes. You're having an ACH of 1.
I would
1.5.
say I would put in one with an ECM blower in it as well.
Interesting.
So yeah,
I've never heard of that one.
So
what's the logic there?
it's more energy efficient. It's more quiet. You know.
Interesting. And then, are you a fan? Again, keep cost in mind here. Are you a fan of combining that with a air source heat pump hybrid system?
Yeah. You read my mind already. So the most cost-effective way to get to a net zero home in general would be a hybrid system. Yeah,
Hybrid system.
natural gas with
You
air
got
source
it.
heat pump.
I think-
Until natural gas becomes like super expensive, then
Yeah, I understand that. But I feel like you need to have that. So some sort of a combined system. Again, I feel like hybrid systems right now, at least, are more practical for homes that are 2,000 square feet or less.
Greener Homes doesn't cover that right now. That's
Hybrid system does. It is.
really
There's
like a gas furnace and there is the model that will qualify.
Absolutely.
So that's news to me.
So long as the air source heat pump is in full effect for the majority of the time, and the cutoff temperature point is -8 degrees Celsius. From -8 and below, which is those odd cold winter days, the fossil fuel furnace can kick in. So long as your temperature set point is at to -1, -8, and usually the hybrid systems that our contractors install, the temperature set point is -9.32 or something like that. So Carrier has a system.
Oh,
Carrier has a system.
Are they promoting? Are they
Yeah,
sponsoring
Carrier
you?
dealers, Carrier deal. This mess was. But I think those particular system, at least my experience with hybrid system, they're only efficient for homes that are less than 2,000 square feet because the CFM value and the air exchanges, you need to have like a 5-ton system.
Yeah, the capacity. But on a net zero home, we can upsize your house
Yes.
to a bigger because you have much more insulation.
Yes.
Better construction.
Yes.
More airtight.
So
better windows.
hypothetically, on a retrofit model, you have a 2-ton system for a 2,000 square foot home where the ACH value is, pick a number, 7 or 6.5, like I'm being generous.
Yeah.
And then now you're going to ACH of 1.5, let's say, and then,
You should meet this really interesting character. Her name's Emily. She is actually in DC. She emptied out her whole house, and then she got aero barrier into the home and did air seal. So
our next podcast is with Air Barrier.
4.5 all the way down to 1.4 or something like that in 2 hours, and they didn't have to do they didn't have to rip up anything.
Right.
So in that case, once you can reduce it to 1.5, then you just add exterior insulation.
Yeah. So hybrid system, yes. ERV, yes. We just talked about ACH value, and I think when it comes to ACH value, one thing that you have to learn is that there's about 15 to 22 locations. I have a checklist, by the way. I'm sure you have a checklist too. I got a checklist from Andy. There's about 15 to 22 locations where if you focus on them first,
those are the low hanging fruit, right?
Don't eat the elephants in one bite. And if you focus on that, you are on your way to 1.5.
Yeah, that's
2 to 1.5. You're on your way there, and then. Hybrid system, air source heat pump combined with some sort of a fossil fuel appliances, and then what do you do for domestic hot water systems?
Air source heat pump, hot water heater.
Air source, that's expensive. Relative to in comparison to domestic hot water tanks that builders go use.
Okay, so I was actually shocked by. So I actually worked on the first net zero renovation in GTA.
Nice. Very nice.
That's one thing that I really enjoy doing. And when the contractor told me that the condensing tank that they were going to install, actually the rate is the same as the air source heat pump, I fell off my chair. I didn't believe him. He showed me the price. I wasn't able to capture anything, but he said they're very close in cost.
Typical induced draft fan domestic hot water tank installed by a builder is about a $1,500.
Oh, so we're talking about induced draft. That's mid efficiency. I'm talking about condensing.
Yeah, how much? What would be the price gap between
35?
That's not bad. That's not bad. And then you're at these are condensing units that are 90% and above EF, right?
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So they're more energy efficient, and to go to an air source heat pump, you're talking about 10% energy savings in general, and that incremental cost, it's actually very, very cost effective. So the payback's 5 years.
Whoa.
So that is interesting.
That's why very
You
interesting.
can't just do energy modeling. You have to kind of put it into perspective for the homeowner. They don't care about how much energy you can save them. Mm-hmm. They care about how long would it take for me to actually enjoy the home. Yeah.
Do you give consideration to Solar Ready as well?
Solar Ready has no credit.
No. But on the path of net zero,
you have to.
Yes.
You must.
So conversations that we're having with builders now is that there are leniency actually provided by municipalities if you consider the solar ready implementation within your build. I think when it comes to our recommendation is when it comes to roof design, consider south facing. Make sure that you have the harnessing elements already visible on the roof, and it's ultimately a conduit from the ceiling to the mechanical room where the inverter will be placed.
Exactly.
Congratulations, you're solar ready.
It's a small little pipe that goes in all the way from the roof down. So it's very cost effective. It's only $150 to do the rough-in.
But is that how much it costs to be solar ready?
That's what my builder's telling me. But the funny thing is, we worked on a subdivision where the house has solar ready conduits in it.
Right.
But the homeowner didn't know that existed, and the people that they hired to install the solar panels made another conduit that's visible on the outside. They went down the side of the wall, and then they made another hole into the foundation and into the home. God,
dude,
did you know that there is a conduit already that's right, like within a foot of your electrical panel? So they didn't have to do all of that crazy stuff.
That's probably, aside from mounting the panels on the roof, that's probably one of the more demanding sides of installing a solar panels on a retrofit project. Are we missing anything? Did we cover all the elements of a net zero home in a nutshell? Net zero home in a nutshell. Let's make a short video on that.
We talked about airtightness.
We talked about airtightness,
but not very in detail.
Right.
And that's one thing that
we got to keep
buy.
Our viewers excited, Jack.
Yeah.
We don't want to give out all the treasures in one setting. Okay.
So that's something that that's something that any energy advisor should learn. That would be really key. And then the other thing is really
I think. Do you agree that from both from a learning perspective and from an execution perspective for both the advisors and the trades and the builders, that's probably the most difficult area within a net zero construction?
That's the one thing that it's hard to buy with money, because even technologies like aero barrier is not the solution to all problems, because they can only fill 3/8 of an inch of a gap. Anything bigger is not doable.
Right.
And so, that 16 or 24 item checklist that you got from Andy, that's gold. Like, if you actually understand
you can
what
have it,
these
Jack.
mean. I have a 64-point checklist that I keep.
In that case, can I have yours?
Maybe.
See how I was so giving and Jack is not giving back. It's okay. I'm still happy.
I'll take you on site and show you how they work.
Wow, that's better than just giving me a list. That would be
A
amazing.
list is not.
Let the record show that Jack has made a promise to me, and I will uphold him to it. Okay,
All
go.
right, we'll go on site together. We'll have a tour.
Wonderful.
And then it's working with a qualified energy advisor. I mean, anybody could design a net zero home, I'm going to say, but it might not be the most suitable package for your home. And that's where the value of the energy advisor comes into play. They really need to understand how, I don't just say, I ask the builder questions instead of telling them what to do, because there's stuff that they like and there's stuff they don't like. So it's important to come up with a package that actually allows them to make it happen.
Right.
Because we're just talking and advising. We're not the one who's swinging a hammer.
They're doing and spending.
Exactly.
Right?
They're doing it. So we need to come and understand from their perspective and figure out what's best for them and not,
Do you think, so what are the top 3 or 5 things that a builder needs to reevaluate, or we need to change, like hearts and minds, and when it comes to a home, in order to kind of get them on the path of net zero? Would you say it's, and I'm sure it's around air sealing and mechanical systems and installations, but what are, like, if you had to be more specific, what are certain things that they're currently doing that they should improve upon or stop doing in order to get them on the path of net zero?
I think the first thing for someone to actually get into net zero from like a typical OBC package, it's the mindset.
Right.
First thing is mindset, because if you don't change the way you're thinking, then it's hard for you to achieve a different result, right? That's what Einstein says, right? You can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. So that's really important. And then once they're open to that, like, actually I don't know about net zero, then they have to talk to somebody like an Andy or a Jack or a Hamed, like people that knows their stuff, so that they can actually give them some advice. And then they can evaluate whether or not they wanted to keep doing this, or they say, you know what, I'm happy with what I'm doing right now, and when the time comes, I'll just do something else. Or they say, no, I want to keep building for another 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, so I need a change.
Yeah.
And from there, then they can engage that energy advisor and learn, because everybody have a different way of doing things.
Right.
You like triple pane windows. Jack doesn't. I'm sure Andy have his opinion on stuff as well.
Oh, he's so pro triple.
Right? So
Andy, he has dedicated multiple slides in his advanced building knowledge to that. But you know what? Going back to that, my philosophy has been small wins matter. And you have to get your foot into the door and create a common ground to start the conversation with the builder. And what better place to start than, hey, let me save you some money.
Yeah.
That's
a great pickup line, man.
You want to pick up a builder? That's how you pick them up. And I think that's where it starts. I feel like the minute you come in, and I think what you're saying is absolutely important. It just hasn't worked for me. The minute I come in with comfort, green, like Hamed, thanks, but no. Leave your
that's
PowerPoint
fluffy stuff for the builder.
Leave your PowerPoint slides on the table.
Yeah.
We'll call you later.
Yeah.
Like versus, oh, are you guys doing that? Did you know that you could do this? And that's the net savings.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, I'm willing to give you 5 more minutes.
Yeah. Right.
I'm talking even about the people that I know dear and that are near and dear to my heart, and I know them for a long time, and they're builders. And it's so funny, the minute you come in and now you're a consultant and you're a potential client, all that stuff goes out of the door, and they're like, all right, are you going to give me value in the next 10 minutes?
Yeah.
And that's all that's going to matter.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, builders are so busy. They have many things to coordinate and consider. So when I say they don't build, they don't actually, they're the planner. And to think and plan, that is the toughest exercise you can do in your life. A lot of people act like they're very busy. That's because they want to avoid thinking. To be a thinker, it takes a lot of energy. Why do you think Steve Jobs is so skinny?
Right.
He's a thinker.
Right.
It takes a lot of energy, right?
Yeah.
There's other reasons why, but I'm just saying in general. So they don't have time to waste. You tell me something that's valuable, then you have my ears for another 5 minutes. And honestly, money is one thing that's very sensitive to them. So
Huge.
yeah.
Time and money. I think those are the two pillars that they're constantly. And I think also understanding the parameters of how they build things currently, and then what are those quick win pivots that they can do where you're still within their area of expertise and comfort as it pertains to change while delivering savings.
That's there you go, man. I mean, that's the best sales pitch ever. I'm hired. You're hired. You're hired.
I've been pitching this. I've been practicing for this interview for the past 10 minutes. No, I think you have to really sympathize, honestly. And anything short of that, you're just being gullible. And it will not be adopted. And and I think that's the case, because I'm genuinely interested in people that ask me questions of how to win the hearts and minds of builders. And for the limited amount of experience that I've had so far, those have been the criterias. And if you come with anything short of that, well,
you might not get a second chance.
You wasted your time. Worse, you wasted their time. Yeah. And then that would be
usually it starts there, and then once they feel that I can trust this person, then it opens up to a whole new other conversation. And your position is very different when you get there. And that's why being a consultant is amazing. I love being a consultant. I've been doing this for almost 20 years. I think I'm going to do it for another 20 years or so. It ain't going to stop. But our industry is very short of talented people. And I think it's just because there's no really good training program out there to build. I mean, how did you get into energy audits? Like who said oh man, you make good money? I mean, maybe a lot of people say stuff like that. You can make good money elsewhere. You're doing fantastic doing other business, but why are you doing energy audits? Right.
I mean, I think for me, I was in the solar business first. So I used to install solar panels in people's roof. I too took a trip to China when I was very young, and I brought a whole series of solar water heating systems to Canada. And I was part of the original Eco Energy program where they were giving retrofit on solar water heating systems.
$5,000, or is it $2,500?
It was. I think at some point it was matched to $5,000, but for the majority I think it was up to $2,500. $1,250 from federal, and then $1,250 from Ontario. And it was a disaster of a career project for me. It would I installed solar panels for my friends. Those friends became enemies. We had I've learned. Oh my God. And I think I was down $80,000 in addition to my school debts. I had a full-time job because this was my side gig. I wanted to go green and change the world. And I think I was on the roof one day playing to gods or God, what am I going to do with my life? And all of a sudden I see this gentleman downstairs with this big circular things, walks into the house. An hour later he walks out. And I'm like, what just happened down there? And then I found out that he was an energy advisor. Actually, there's a beautiful story there too, as he was one of the original people that I spoke with. And then I made the decision that perhaps I should be spending more time down there and less on and that's how I started my career. And then I became an energy advisor, and 12 years later, here we are. Mm-hmm. And I think the key things around it was that I just had a lot of grit. I think the companies that we had a lot of grit. We never gave up, and we just kept going. Programs came and went, we stuck. Talents came and went, we stuck to it. And I think at some point, like I remember applying for jobs to those SOs, and now those SOs are my competitors, and we're friends. And even till this day, with I remember that time I called you and I had an interview and you didn't give me the job, and then now we're just having a conversation, a few big fish in a small pond, and I think it's just so long as you're willing to stick to it. And then the formula has always been that you need to go beyond money, because for you to say I'm here to make a buck for 12 years, well, like your juice is gonna run out.
I had the same experience, man. Energy auditing did not put food on my table. Not enough. I had to do a bunch of stuff. I did energy modeling, HVAC design, but like you said, we stuck to it, and now I'm fortunate enough that I still enjoy what I do and I can make a business out of it.
Right.
So,
and the thing is, like, once you've gone through that training, you have that line of sight, or you have that belief that new construction is no different. And I try to kind of, even by process of osmosis, I try to give that belief to all the new candidates that, listen, I don't know what the future holds, but it was a lot tougher before, and we survived. And by all the variables that we're evaluating right now, I think it's going to be a very rewarding, prosperous future, both in retrofit and new construction. So if you're coming in with that 5 to 10, if you're coming in because you want to make a quick buck on Canada Greener Home grants, which God knows how long is going to be on the table.
7 years, I heard.
In reality, 3 to 4.
Yeah.
Depends
Depends how fast the money gets dried up, right?
We have seen other programs. They say something and then other things happen, right? Eco energy and the abrupt of it. But if you're coming in with that mindset, I think it's incorrect. I think it's incorrect, and I try to align myself with those individuals that they really want to play the game for the next 5 to 10 years, start in the retrofit market, and hopefully slingshot their career into new construction market. And those are the people, and those are the talents that fascinates me, and those are the talents that we make every effort to retain and keep around, because I feel like that's going to be the next adventure that we're all going to be having.
You should introduce a few of those guys to me.
100%. Site visit first, Jack. You promised.
Well, that's how I do our energy exchange.
Done. It would be my pleasure.
It would be amazing to have these people into the industry. Any industry, right? Because
for me, I have to. The other thing is, like, I have a soft spots for young students. I think part of it was because when I was a young student full of debt, I had no idea what the hell I was doing, and I just wanted to be committed to something. Yeah. And I had this raw energy that I just wanted to come. Oh, solar panel, China, let's go tomorrow. Like it was just raw energy.
Yes, too much.
Here's a hammer. Here's a hammer, and I feel like those are the people that I'm drawn to. Like, when I see a young version of myself, where just starting out and they just want to have a sense of directions to kind of carve out their own little legacy. Those are the university students. Those are my low hanging fruits.
That's the same reason why I joined Casey, actually.
Amazing.
Canadian Energy Advisor Association, because. When I was trying to learn what I need to learn today, there's I didn't have somebody like you to teach me a freaking energy advisor course.
Neither did I.
The exam. So I'm like, well, wouldn't it be great if actually that happened? So I said, okay, maybe I can be that guy now. Maybe I didn't get the chance of learning from somebody like myself, 20 years later. So now I'm trying to help and grow the industry.
This is the reason why I decided to do these podcasts. Like, I feel like there is this still, and it's just I feel like it's just a number game, and not that many people are playing it. Maybe people are just too busy in the weeds. Maybe the industry is not mature enough. Maybe there needs to be a lot more education and awareness. There needs to be a lot more speaking series like that, where people go micro and practical around opportunities that exist both in the retrofit and new constructions within these jurisdictions that we work. There's hardly any. And I I like to think that in the future there's going to be more podcasts like this, and there's going to be more, at least even not podcasts. There's more discussions like this to kind of elevate the knowledge and bring more awareness to this. Ontario is huge. And I feel Ontario is huge. We're on the forefront of something incredible that it's only inclining. And I look to see more. I look to see more discussions like this.
Trust me, I think there's going to be many, many more builders banging on your doors in the future because they need help from somebody who knows how to build a house well. And it's not because it's their choice. It's because they're voluntold. Building code is pushing them that way, whether they want it or not.
Gotta love compliance.
It's like BC, right? Every new home now needs a blow door test.
100%.
And when you don't pass, you don't get occupancy. When you don't get occupancy, everybody's butt is being sued on the table. And that's a big problem. That's what gives white hair to a builder. So that would be your value to them. You're that stress killer. That's worth a lot of money.
Jack, this has been invaluable. You have the next 30 seconds for final remarks, and then we can conclude this wonderful, wonderful podcast.
So thank you if you stay till the end, you're someone special. I would love to see a comment on LinkedIn or something like that. Say, hey, I actually went all the way to the last second. That's kudos to you and to the show, because it's actually very meaningful. And then, I'm just a normal guy doing something that's pretty normal. Nothing unique, nothing special. But I enjoy what I do, and that's why I want to share with you out there that energy advisors does exist. Because 20 years ago, there's no such thing as an energy advisor. There are energy advisors, but not many of them. So it'll be great to have more people paying attention to our industry, because global warming is real, and to help to counter that, we have to build more energy efficient homes. Not just energy. The next gold nugget out there is carbon. We didn't talk about that at all today, but that would be a segue for maybe future participants. Chris Mack would be a great guy to invite if you can actually get him. He can give you a lot of good ideas on carbon emission and stuff like that. I mean, I'm gonna keep doing what I do, because I'm only one little guy in the university, but in the universe. But I'll do everything I can to move forward in the direction. Success to me is being able to live the lifestyle that you want to live for a long, long time. And for me, a successful career is being able to do what I enjoy doing for a long, long time. And I found that very, very pleasing and enjoyable. I love doing what I do. I wake up and I want to keep doing the same thing every day. So I'm glad I'm here today to share about my little dream, about my dream to change the world. And I think we both have that little, that little thing, that little peck of fire in our heart that we can change the world, but in our own way. And, maybe we can get more people like that. And then it becomes a fire. And then the fire can actually become something that's very energetic and be powerful and change something.
I think has already begun. And I think, thank you, Jack. Here's to normal individuals doing extraordinary things.
Thanks for the time today.